Thank you, Bernadette. Thank you very much. Now, the next part of the meeting will be for people from the floor who wants to ask any questions of any of the panellists. But you must put your hand up and indicate who you're directing the question to, and they will answer. And we don't want anybody getting into any political debacle between each other. This is for Marian, and we want straight questions, straight answers, and that's it.
It's Brenda Murphy here.
Brenda.
I want to thank. I want to thank every single one on the panel. I was very, very moved there. My question's kind of legal, which is all could help me out with it. I was in Armagh jail with Marian. My baby was born and I was sent to the hospital wing, and Marian and Dolores were there. And they were very, as Father Murray, Monsignor, by the way, as describes, they were very, very thin and very ill then. That was 35 years ago yesterday. All the women in Armagh jail at the time, we were told she was pardoned. Everyone knew she was pardoned. It was common knowledge she was pardoned. And surely, is there not some way that our statements, it was announced to all of us, Father Murray here at the time, he was Father Murray then, our chaplain, we all knew it was a royal prerogative of mercy, if I'm right. There were several other prisoners over the years got the royal prerogative of mercy. And I know one in particular that, God love her, Noreen Winchester, very tragic case. And they're saying she's done something in their perspective that they pulled Marian back into prison, but that's very selective. I also believed, from my point of view, that a life sentence was for life. So if you're pardoned while serving a life sentence, surely you're pardoned for life. I don't think anyone should be brought in under licence. I think we're not dogs to be kept on a lead for the rest of our lives. I believe it needs to be abolished, that whole system. And I want to do anything I can to help. And Bernadette, you're right, sometimes you do feel angry, full of pain, full of rage, and you think, oh, to hell with it. I went to see your film and I was watching My Mother in a Blanket, and all you women and men here who went out for us because we were inside. I would love to see that emerge again. I will work and do anything with any group. I don't want people splintering. I think you're exactly right. Because Marian could die in there, and that's the reality of it. And you're right. If it's her this morning, who will it be tomorrow, as Angela Davis said. So I would love you to give us advice. And could you please explain to me why a pardon's not a pardon? And if we were all witnesses to that pardon, why can't that be accepted in court? Thank you.
Maybe then that's working. Do you stretch? Not stretch. You have to get up. The new, all right.
If I could just answer the question in relation to the British government's perspective in relation to the pardon, is that the pardon only covered, Marian had a life sentence and a 20-year sentence when she was originally sentenced in England. And the Secretary of State's position is that the pardon only covered the 20-year sentence and it didn't extinguish the life sentence. But I just reiterate it again, it's analogous to an arrest warrant. If someone comes to your house to arrest you, you ask where's the warrant, and if they don't produce the warrant, they can't arrest you. Owen Patterson still hasn't produced a pardon, which Marian, at the very initial stage, said, I am covered by a pardon. It could have been easily rebutted the next day by Owen Patterson, and it wasn't, and there can only be one inference from that.
Anyone else?
Could I just say one thing? It's very hard to reach from here. I always get worried whenever the conversation turns to Bernadette tell me what to do. I'm starting to get worried saying, Bernadette advise me what to do.
Go on, Bernadette.
You know what to do. You know what's within your capability to do. Go do it. Well, it might be different for different people, but you know yourself what you're capable of doing. Do it.
you doing? I'm an ex-prisoner myself, and I noticed that there's dozens of ex-prisoners in here. Was it not working? Sorry about that. I'm privileged to be here. I'm glad to see so many good people on the panel. It's not really a question about the odds, it's more a comment, and the comment is that last year, Brenton Ellis, BL, was released through the agitation and the organisation of Republicans throughout this country, and I think that that's what's needed now. All joking aside, all backbiting aside, everything else, and personalities aside, this is what needs to happen. This woman needs our help, and so does her family, and I think that the more of us to marry her take the streets, the better, and the sooner she'll be out. Shin shin.
Any other one? Any more questions?
Martin, I want to apologise to the meeting. It was my sister's birthday on the 8th of March, and when I came to the door, who was it? Was at the door, and I said, I can't stay, it's my sister's birthday. And I think a lot of the things that are happening to us is apathy.
Yeah.
Because I feel, number one, I'm past it, I'm tired, and I don't really know a lot about it. And when the leaflet came round the door, I handed it to my daughter, and I didn't even remember who Marian Price was, and I apologise for that. I really do, because I've been a rebel all my life, and all of a sudden I'm dead.
Waking up.
Right, stand up.
How you doing? My name's Jerry Carroll from People for Profit. I just want to offer support to the campaign to free Marian Price. And just a quick suggestion. I think the way Bernadette put it was very important. It's Marian today, it could be anybody else tomorrow. And I think what we have to do is to convey to students who are fighting against fees, against education cuts. It's Marian today, it could be you tomorrow. Workers who are fighting against bosses and losing their jobs. It's Marian today, it could be you tomorrow. So I think that's very important in how we push the campaign forward. And just kind of a question for Bernadette and others. I mean, I think linking up with the trade unions is very, very important. People who represent hundreds of thousands of people in the north. So it's kind of a question, how do we do that, and how can we get more people behind the campaign to free Marian Price?
Just on that, maybe somebody can update me. I do know that an emergency motion went to the Women's ICTU conference. I think it was put forward by somebody from Unison, and I think that it was supported by Patricia McKeown. So hopefully I think that was actually passed. I'm not sure, but I know that it was raised, and I know that Patricia McKeown actually spoke in favour of it on that basis, Jerry, that while she may not hold the same political perspective as Marian, a government that grew strong on taking away Marian's rights had to be challenged on the abuse of her rights, whether you liked her politics or not, but also that once it grew strong, it would then flex its muscles against any form of dissidence, whatever that might be. So maybe people know about that, but it's again what we did before. If you're in a trade union, then raise it with your branch. If you're not in a trade union, oh dear. You want to get into it before the welfare changes.
Like everybody here, I'm delighted to see the large crowd for Marian Price. And I'm glad to see a hell of a lot of men here as well. But don't forget, Martin Corey is also, his licence was withdrawn from him, and he's back in jail with no charges. Nothing else could happen to a hell of a lot of men here today. So we do need to take to the streets for everybody to change the law and stop the English people, the British government, from imposing their will on our people because they oppose their rights to be here in this country once and for all. Caramel Mayo.
I think it's very important for organisations to get them to take action. Yes, it's important, and spread not only throughout Ireland but, as I mentioned, even globally. But let us not forget the importance of each and every one of us here as individuals, because I have learned from experience that governments can sometimes be very worried when they see that it is seeped down to the populace in general. And if they get a letter from 7 Edward Street or number 4 Culdee Drive, they see that it's spreading around every individual. So write your letter. Write your letter. You are important. I know the organisations are important, but individuals are important because they see that, yes, it's gone right down, and then they get worried. It's the same for elections. They are worried about the individual. So write your letter and keep a copy of it, or write more than one letter, and that will influence, I hope.
Use that mic there if you wouldn't mind. Use that one. All the mics are working.
Hello, my name's Joe McNulty. I was on the blanket 3.5 years. Recently, I wrote a letter to the Irish News, and after some harassment of the editorial desk, I got it printed. It was about Marian. I would like to come from this from a little bit of a different perspective. A few years ago, we were told up in Galway that when the justice and policing system went to Stormont, that the nationalist nightmare would be over. That everything, there would be manners, which was the exact words, would be put on the justice system and the police. Now, my letter in the Irish News was, why the silence? And of all the people who are up in the marble corridors of Stormont, I have heard very little from them in the papers, and especially the hierarchy of people who should know better. If anybody had told me, and I was in from 1977 to 81, and if anybody had told me that the likes of Marian Price would be interned, that there would be people in dirt protests putting their faces on the walls, again, 35 years later, I would have called you a liar. But the reality is there. That's what's happening. Now, why? Why the silence? Why the silence from all the top Republicans who are in Stormont, who are supposed to have power? They're supposed to have power. They told us in Galway Hall that the nationalist nightmare was over once they got policing and justice. What happened? The nightmare is ongoing. Why the silence? Now, I have to say this, and I'm not afraid to say it. There's one person, and I tell you one thing, he should be ashamed of himself, and that's a fellow prisoner of Marian's. Not a word. Not a word. So why is that? Now, I can tell you this. The pressure needs to go. Everybody at this table most mentioned the British government, British Secretary of State, and everything else. But whether people's afraid or whether they don't want to rock the boat, put the blame for the blame lies. Put it with the local guys who are up there and should know different. Thank you very much.
think something that the last speaker needs to get straight into his head, because I think he made a mistake. Do you see the people you're talking about in Stormont? They are the government. They're not the people up there playing darts. When I referred to the government being held accountable, the accountable body is the government administration in Stormont. We're not talking about somebody over in Westminster. The government. And that's why I said there's no point in guilt-tripping people. The relationships between people change. We're talking about power and institutions here. If I'm sitting in this hall as a citizen, I have a particular relationship with the institution of government. Doesn't make any difference if the man that's running the country is my brother or my uncle or my partner or anything. The relationship between the citizen and the government is a very clear relationship. We have a right and a duty to hold the government to account. The government has a right, a duty, in law and in international law, to protect the rights of the citizens. The government that is failing, that I was speaking of, does no longer sit way over yonder. The government responsible for the imprisonment of Marian Price is the one that is sitting on the hill. They have a Department of Justice. They have a Minister of Justice. They have an Attorney General. They're not up there playing leapfrog. They are running the country. They are responsible for the prisons. They are responsible for the parole board. And the one area that they don't have responsibility for is the special services and MI5. They stay with Mr. Patterson. But the people who are responsible for Marian Price's continued imprisonment are that government, which may or may not be made up of people who used to have a very, very different relationship with Marian Price.
Any other questions? You want to come up, please? If there's any other questions, I'll give time for about 3 more people who want to ask, and if not, we'll wind it up.
Bernadette just said, is there any women who want to speak on International Women's Day? Obviously, I'm not a woman. Councillor Tim Appel from the SDLP. Obviously, there's many people in the room who may not agree with my politics or the SDLP politics, but that is not important. It is important that we have, it's important that we show unity tonight with the Price family. Obviously, is that better, is it? Obviously, it's been an honour to have been briefed by Peter Corrigan and the Price family along with Harry Leader some time ago. And Pat Ramsey from the SDLP in Derry has led the charge in terms of seeking this issue to be resolved on human rights and humanitarian grounds in the floor of the Assembly, and we've taken it to the Taoiseach's office. We tried to meet the Secretary of State, but unfortunately he won't meet us, but we've obviously taken opportunities to talk to him individually, and that's why we're here tonight, to support the Marian Price family and to ensure that we get justice for Marian as quickly as possible and her release, because clearly, I know Pat has visited her and is going to visit her again on Saturday, that it's important in terms of health grounds that this matter is resolved as quickly as possible. You know, one of my political heroes is Sarah Conway, you know, Giuseppe and his wife and Jerry's mother, and she showed that in a quiet way you can build alliances, and I think that's what we need to do tonight. There's an alliance here on many different political views, but we're united in one thing, that we need to see Marian Price released as soon as possible.
Any other speakers?
name's Linda McShane, and I was just wondering, as for support for Marian, to let her know that everybody is thinking about her, could we not all get wee cards, send them into the jail, to let her know that people's thinking about her until we get this up and running?
Anyone else? Oh, you know.
In a new warrant from Unison. Bernadette, you were right, there was a motion moved earlier. Unfortunately, it was too late, couldn't get it through. But there was a lot of support in it, and there will be motions going to other trade union bodies and meetings. Very powerful and well-supported motions. And those of you that are in trade unions, whether you agree with Marian's politics or not, or whether your union does, this is very simply an issue of human rights. It's a human rights issue, and it can't be shied away from at any level whatsoever. If you're in a trade union, you're in a branch. If you're in a branch, have an equality officer. There's nothing to stop those people from going to see Marian, going on fact-finding missions and publishing what they saw. You're in community organisations, there's nothing to stop your community organisations taking an action. Have we forgotten how many people it takes to occupy a building? Or to block a road? Or to give out leaflets? Or to talk to somebody else and spread the word? It doesn't take a lot. It just takes you to get active and do it. So let's all come out of here tonight, united in the fact that we are going to take action.
But can I ask, before you do, can I ask, because I think that's very important what has been said, number of things. I'm never good at counting because I came from an era that if there were 10 people on the street, we said there was 100. If there was 50, we said there was 5,000. If there was 1,000, we said the whole world had turned up. And there were days when there were more people on demonstrations than lived in the country. So I have no idea how many people are in this room. But what I do have an idea of is that if every single person in this room personally committed, as Monsignor has said, to an individual action, be that simply to write a letter to David Ford or any other member of government, minister or junior minister, whatever takes your fancy, but to write to government demanding justice for Marian, demanding adherence to human rights conventions, whichever way, but do something. If everybody went out of this room to find somebody they know who doesn't know about Marian Price and tell them about it and ask them to do something, then I think we have about 500 people doing something individually. I think that you have to make a few personal actions, not go home and say, I'll wait to see what happens next and I'll go to the next meeting. If you feel there's something you can gather up several people to do and get others to write letters, do it. If you need more information, see Maura and these women here who have formed this local group and get it from them. Get a way of getting that information so that you're updated. And commit yourself, everybody going out of this room, to 3 things that they will do. 1, to take an action themselves. 2, to find somebody else that will take an action. And 3, to find some collective action they will either initiate or take part in. And then, like the loaves and fishes in that book that I don't read. You have no idea how much activity will come out of those small decisions. Monsignor knows exactly how many people got fed with 12 loaves and 2 fishes, but I have no idea. But it was a lot.
Any other speakers?
Well, I just wanted to ask the panel, though. I think it's my personal belief is that this is just a tester for. Is there any support out there for the dissonant word? I want to ask the panel: do you think this is a tester, testing the water? Could be anybody. It could be your grandas, grannies, mums, dads, whatever. So just wonder if that's the case or not.
No. I think the question, been answered by panel members. Yes, it could be anybody. But it's never just anybody. It doesn't start off being anybody. It starts off being somebody, and this somebody is Marian Price. But next time, it could be some trade union organiser who's fighting against the cuts, who will be carted off because they're against the public interest in this age of austerity. Or the next time, I don't know if any of you are aware of the changes in the welfare reforms and the universal credit that's coming, but we're going back to not enough houses. I don't know what you're like down in Belfast, but in Dungannon, where contrary to the folk memory of the people of Derry, in Dungannon, where the first Civil Rights March was, the housing situation, the shortage of socially affordable housing and the overcrowding in housing is statistically now worse than it was in 1968. So if there's a housing action group starts up again, it could be the person who starts that up who could be picked on. In all kinds of ways, it could be all kinds of people. But it's hard to know, and that's why I dealt with the motivation. It's hard to know exactly what the government is pushing for, other than to say, don't disagree with us. And it is throughout the whole world. It is, whether it's here, whether it's Syria, a government that is not held to account by its people will ultimately kill its people. Either one at a time in prisons or in their hundreds in the street. But if you do not hold your government to democratic account, to govern within the principles of international human rights and justice, your government will destroy you, even if for 30 years they fought with you.
Well, just a few words I want to say. A group of women got together and formed a campaign for the release of Marian Price. And in that short period of time, with the help of a lot of other people, we have leafleted every area in this town. And that was just getting out and doing it. We will be continuing doing different types of projects. Should it be the camp up at Andytown? Should it be letter writing, or whatever the case may be? We'll be calling on you all, because we're only a small group, but we need a lot of help here. And whenever we call for anything to be done, we would ask you all to come out and support it. And where you can in your own areas, start up a group. Because even to sit down in a house with 10 people and all start writing letters, it's very, very important. And you don't realise what it can do. So I'm asking you all to do your bit. We didn't think we could have done it, because only a handful of us. We've done it and we'll move on. We're not big, but we continue to move on. And we'll ask everybody in our ears and above, whatever we propose to do, whatever activity, we would ask you all to join it. Or any other area who's having any activity, join it. And the letter writing is important. You must write letters to people who can change this situation. And that's the first thing we have to do. That's just sitting in your own house, taking a pen and paper, writing, put a stamp and get it off. So if we can do that even, that's a major thing. So I'll wind up the meeting and thank you all for coming.